Hello world, Patricia O'Connor and Frida Reba Darcy here. Today on the Bonsai Balcony, we're going to do a little tour. We've been pretty busy. We just did a 4-parter on our literati. Then I've been working on my little Ponderosas on the side, but then we did a follow-up right after that. So with all of that going on, I had shows in mind that took us right up into there, and today starts a new schedule of what is our next round of programs going to be. And it's not like I don't have plenty to do. We have a whole lot of little pine trees that can be cleaned up. We have a whole lot of little pine trees that, for instance, I'm just talking about pines here, that we could be putting wire to or repotting. We're into repotting season with so much that could be done. Today is Saturday, and we're gonna do something that is pretty popular for us. Sometimes I'll do a fallback and say we haven't done a balcony tour in a while, and those shows used to be surprising to me how well they do compared to some of the more thought out stuff. And people like a good balcony tour. Today is a beautiful day for a balcony tour, and frankly, I'm a tad bit burned out from the work schedule and the shooting schedule, and probably to some extent a little hungover still from the holiday social schedule. I see it in my, I don't really see it as much in my enthusiasm, but when I call it a day, I sleep longer. I'm not waking up before my alarm right now, which is unusual for me. So I just thought today we were going to take it easy day. And we don't have a huge, we're not going to do any bending and folding and manipulating. We're just going to go through and do a balcony tour. I haven't been able to go through and visit everybody the way I normally would like to. And there's plenty to show and tell. So it's a beautiful day in Alameda. It looks through camera slightly bluer than what I see when I look away from camera. It's more hazy and bright today, even with my big sun hat on. I'm squinting, and I think that's probably it's probably still smoky. I can tell it's still smoky. Looking from here to the pool, there's a haze that we're looking through. But it's a beautiful day, and it is in the 70s. It's a light t-shirt kind of day. I mean, not even a sweater needed unless you just want the pockets or something. A lot of these trees are ready for a little slurp, as I'm giving my coastal oak a little water. So as per promised, I'll probably water some of these guys while we chat, but we'll start here. I'm now watering this Trident maple overhead. I don't have any foliage to worry about, and that gets this part watered all the way around. I've got holes punched down here so that this water can escape, and I'm not really looking at them. I've got this cover bundled up still, but I'm in charge of the watering. Whereas before, when this was wrapped tight, we would put water in there and keep it wrapped tight, and then it would that water would stay in there, kind of like recycle, and circle through the system. You didn't have to worry so much about water in this part and this part staying dry. If it was sealed up, it would evaporate and move around, or this part of the plastic bag would collect humidity, which would even it out, kind of an idea. We're no longer doing that. Now we're responsible for the water at hand, and everything's going well here. The last time we looked, this guy was putting out this Trident maple was putting out good roots, and I was really happy to see that. This was also my first air layer. So yeah, and I was kind of skeptical as to whether or not it would be a go the first time around. I was even early with the disclaimers, I think, as it turned out. Maybe early. We'll have to see. You know, I haven't won anything yet. But I said it's not a matter of if, but when. If we didn't get a graft, if we didn't get roots out of our air layer, we would just re-scrape it, repack it with moss, and then start again. And when we went in there and took a look, we actually had some nice root growth happening. Spotty, but nice root growth happening. So it was early yet to do anything. I was perfectly happy to go, yep, nope, that's good, and repacked it. And that's pretty much where we stand there. You can see the ramification that we got. I'd cut this tree back. I cut this tree back twice last summer, and this being the final time, I could I need to go back and cut these down to a shape where they're crossing other pieces and we're adding to the ramification. We'll build a tree that's from here to here. I also have some intentions of possibly taking this down to here, to the, this could be this bottom, take the top off. This and this and this is how I was thinking would be the top here, and we could take another top. In other words, I can keep it from stretching out top ways too, although I think having this as a base will make for a nice little one of those. But that might be something to think about in the future. And we have enough growth coming out on all of these, and I've been thinking about that for up to a year. That's what this branch is doing. I saw this little sprout come out, and I go, we're going to preserve that and see if we can work the tree lower. So that is a pretty good little follow-up on there. We could do this. What do I have? What do you have handy, Patricia? We'll go in. We'll go all the way in and grab some stuff. Here. And you. Little sun dog here leading the way. That's something we'll get to in a minute. All right. While we're doing this, that looks like a good spot. I'm looking at these branches and deciding where a good place to terminate that would be, and then acting accordingly based on what I'm just kind of looking at here. That's too. This will only take a second and then we'll move on. But yeah, ramification on our Trident maple while we're just kind of hanging out here. Why not? I hadn't even thought to do that. I haven't really been thinking a whole lot about this. I've had other things kind of get the majority of my attention lately, and this guy is in dormant, doing everything we wanted to do. So when we did a Saturday Night Live bonsai, and we saw where we were with this guy, that was good news to me. I just saw that as good news, and I also saw that as a good time to just wrap it back up and not worry about it for a minute. You're too long. Oh, Pat, easy. That's too long. We'll give that. We'll give that. I started to cut that and it was hanging. Hopefully, that's too long. Let's cut that back. Let's get that back to here. All right, there, that's a little shapely. Now from there, we'll just move on to just our Fukien tea. That's a pretty happy little tree. I have yet to learn a whole lot about these. This guy was at our store, and it almost succumbed to not being watered until somebody took over the greenhouse duties at work, and then I wasn't there but 3 days a week, so it wouldn't have fallen on me. Also, when you work in the greenhouse, you also have to sell like mouse traps and stuff, and that part of the job just bummed me right out whenever I tried to take that on at another store. I don't like to be the seller of death goods, come to find out. Yeah, I think about the victims on the other end, and it just, yeah. Anyway, that's our Fukien tea. I repotted it when we got it, and I cut it back. Whoever took over the greenhouse, which was actually Lisa, not whoever, but Lisa, she saw this guy was all wilted, not looking good, and she put it in triage. And when I came through there and saw that it had a trunk, I hadn't noticed the trunk on it before it went bare. I didn't know that we even had these. So there were two of them, and I snatched up one and made a deal with the boss over it. Otherwise, I had never given this species of tree a moment's thought until now. I've watched bonsai shows where other people have done their trees. This guy's looking a little thick. I should probably go through and we could do something on that, but not right now. But I think it's looking pretty good. We're feeding it biogold. I've got it in a terracotta pot. This kind of shows the problem that I have with basic American pot designs. They don't drain well. So I'm sure there's probably water backed up in here somewhere, because this is making such a good seal that it just was going down and then just kind of bounces off of the suction or the vacuum they got going there. So if I were to at least do that, that might pick that up a little. Just a raffia that Pat hadn't picked up. This is our Chinese wisteria. It's leafless. I just want to make sure that it doesn't go dry at this point. When I see the top of the soil start to turn white, that's a good time to throw some water to it. But otherwise, I'm not really sweating it too much. Hang on to this for me, Buddha. Otherwise, I'm not really sweating it too much. We just kind of wait here and wait for spring to come along. This whole branch, I haven't really done anything with it. This is not living tissue. When I got the tree, it had this. I don't think wisterias typically do dead wood very well. Their material is kind of light, so that I haven't seen a whole lot of really great dead wood when it comes to wisterias. And I've seen people dig up stumps and leave dead wood features and stuff. And the amount of water that these guys take, you tend to watch a lot of those dead wood features go quickly. I'm sure you could preserve that with wood hardener, but yeah, it's not that they're known necessarily for their deadwood features, but this has basically been a deadwood feature since I bought the tree. It's never ever come out with anything, and there's no point that I can see in necessarily doing anything with it right now, so I just kind of let it hang. This came up a year or so ago, and I thought that would make a nice replacement, that we could probably do some nice stuff with that. So in keeping with this, I'm letting this continue. We'll see how it does. And this thing got really long and bloomed last year for the first time. I don't know if it's going to bloom this year. I may have cut all the buds off that were going to do that, or it may not have put those out yet, but I don't see a whole lot of buds on there currently. When I look at my Japanese wisteria, I see next year's buds all over that tree. Both the ones that want to be shoots and the ones that want to be blooms. I never learned the difference. I just say, yeah, those are two different kind of shoots there. Now I'm looking at my Ponderosa. This has been a subject of conversation for me over the last couple of shows. Anytime it comes up, I seem to always find myself talking about this guy. This tree represents an emotional investment for me. It's both, I think, beautiful and has a design potential that is really big, for lack of a better way to put it. It's really up there for a bonsai person of my caliber and for a bonsai person of my financial status. I think this tree is a big perk, and I'm trying to make sure that it stays happy in the environment that it's growing in. While I listen to two different camps say these don't do well here at all, they will live for a couple of years and then run themselves down and die. Also, you will sometimes see people go, no, mine's doing well. It's already pushing out a second round of foliage, which is actually, you're noticing what the other person said. When they run themselves into the ground and die, like in winter, they will push out a second round of foliage because they haven't gotten cold enough to go into dormancy, and then a couple of years from that, and it start dropping limbs and succumb. So to make sure that if that happens to some of these trees, they were a minimal investment and they were young and healthy, and I'm not exactly sure which subspecies of Ponderosa they are. So this one being a scopulorum, that might be the answer to the question why some people say they can live here and some can't. And I don't want to take any chance at this being the one that can't. So we've noticed that with this species, things seem to go along pretty well. But when we have any kind of issues, they tend to show the effects. Like our heat issues show up on our Ponderosas. Any other issues that some of the other younger trees can take with stride, these guys seem to show it. That kind of is me just paying a lot of attention to them because I'm looking to see the early signs of anything, because I'm diligent that way. It goes back to the being emotionally invested and also knowing that this may or may not be. So my proactive approach to making sure this tree stays healthy was to overwinter it last winter at a different bonsai grower's garden, which is up further upstate where it gets colder and it would overwinter better. And then while we had it there, I decided, I checked into it, found out that he did grafting and had some really nice stock for grafting. And so I had Peter T put grafts on it and just lifted up to them as to how that was to be done. He told me the price and I said, yep, that's fine, go. That got us 6 grafts. Normally, when somebody of his caliber does grafts, you can kind of count on half of them. Sometimes a little better than that if it's just a good year. It wasn't a good year for this balcony. We had a lot of heat last year. We're 4 floors up, so whatever it was on the ground, it was hotter up here. I had my own issues where I was messing with this and brought it down by accident quickly. It was like our uprights went over the side and our lights were all hanging off the balcony by their safeties, and I got kind of tore up, and it took me about 15 hours to put all that back. I had a chip in that pot. I had a few broken limbs on my cypress tree, and I literally saw one of the lamps resting here, and all of those grafts were right in here. So when it came down to, out of our 6 grafts, 1 came through, I looked at those, and with the quality of the work that I saw looked top notch. Also, my stage of the game when it comes to grafting and knowledge of grafting, I wouldn't know a good versus a bad graft if it bit me in the butt. They say there's a 500 ways to do it wrong and one to do it right. And I think Peter T knows. So when we got 1 out of 6, that wasn't absolutely the best. And I think that slows down my timing on how I'm supposed to transfer this tree over. For instance, come spring, we are to start cutting back some of the Ponderosa growth in favor of the scions or of the grafts, the Japanese black pines grafts, which are now growing. The one that you can see is the one that took, and it is growing really quickly. It's doing really well. I think that's exactly what a successful graft is supposed to look like. In that shot, I see 1, 2, 3, 4. I think 4 that didn't. Actually, 5 didn't, but I just looking up at camera, I saw 4 of them there. So when this thing has started transitioning well onto the black pine foliage, I will no longer have to be as worried about the climate or the zone causing this tree issues. It will be working its way towards the sweet spot that is the Bay Area. I've thought for quite some time that my area next to the water is probably quite a bit like the area where these Japanese black pines originated, because my Japanese black pines tend to do well. Here recently, I've been concerned over the water. We've had a lot of rain. It's a big tree. It's hard to bring in out of the weather. I basically would bring it in here next to Frida to get it out of the rain, while leaving the patio door open so that it wouldn't really feel like it was totally inside. I also propped up one end to make sure it was draining properly. And when I scooped back the top dressing, this was the top dressing. There's quite a bit of top dressing. When I scooped that back, it looked to me like the soil was black, wet, and not taking up water quickly. That's a couple of reasons for that. One, it's a Ponderosa, and they do that. 2, we've been having a lot of rain, but that doesn't save me. That doesn't get me out of danger when it comes to root rot. I just can't say, well, it's raining a lot, so we're not going to have root rot. I mean, a lot of wet soil is for a long time. It's a lot of wet soil for a long time. It would probably not have to worry about root rot in the winter because it would all be frozen. And it would have deep roots that weren't frozen, and that's just kind of how they can exist. So what I did was I tipped it up, and I found that to be very successful. This is the side that was down. I just brought it down a little while ago. And this is the side that was tipped up. The side that was tipped up is dry and ready to be watered. The half of the pot, which is not really the half of the pot, it's a 70-30 at this point. That still looks damn to me. I can give this until this afternoon and check, and then maybe tomorrow we'll water the whole thing thoroughly. So it's not that much behind. In fact, my bigger pines that take water faster are just now at the point where they need water. So what I'm seeing here is kind of what I would expect for a Japanese black pine that's in a pot this big. The smaller the pot, the faster it's going to need watering. Here where I am has been my experience. And I would expect something that's this big to go through water a little bit slower. On top of that, I was still concerned over the length of time. So when today, I took off all of the top dressing, which is what I just showed you. And I also took the weenie skewer and I just broke up. You see how all of this is a lot looser now, and all of this is a lot looser. This was that matted soil, but it was full of substrate. So I didn't have to really rake. I just had to kind of go through and start flipping the little rocks on the top. And that would break up this substrate where it had been getting compressed and stuff. Now, there's a couple of reasons are a couple of things that go with repotting season, and one is you have a hard time getting the soil to go in, and another is you have a hard time drying out the soil. So we never had the first one. The problem with it taking up soil or it standing here, it never did that. It was just staying wet too long. Also, this is charcoal. I know a lot of people do this, and they name some microbial reason why. I'm not personally a big fan of dead wood or orchid bark in there. That's just something else. You know, you go, well, it's supplying carbon, not wood, but it's just something else that can rot in there. I don't see any wire cutters. I wanted to cut that wire. So what I've done is I've broken up the topsoil to where that matted stuff now looks kind of like the topsoil again. We've broken up that. I have noticed that we've noticed the benefit from tipping up the tree, so that has helped. And that's also why this side is now wetter than that side. So I brought it down earlier because I did some wiring. I tipped up some of the branches that had, whenever we had it grafted, they told me they were going to remove the wire. I said, that's fine. I mean, I had only just wired the tree. Not wired the tree, I had only just put motion in this tree from where the collector had wired it. He wired everything up, and I brought everything down to here and below, and then 3 months later, all of that was cut off. But then that had and that was so that it could be grafted, like we said. But then that had the side benefit of a lot of these branches were now tipped down, and in the sunlight, some of them are getting sunburned on their own, and some of them just aren't in a positive energy state. So when I started noticing a lot of sap come out of the tree in the warmer part of the summer last year, I removed the rest of the wire and went through and put cut paste on where I saw it was weeping. The kind of the connection that caused me to think that way was whenever I saw some normally what would be crystal clear, beautiful butterscotch smelling sap coming from a Ponderosa, and it was purple. It was a beautiful color, purple, like purple clear being shot on some candy apple paint job or something. And why that sap would be purple, my first thought is, what are you feeding this tree? And then I was like, no, that is sap that has oozed out of a crevice where the wiring is getting in, where the wiring is taken over, it's being grown over, and it's weeping there, and that clear sap plus copper equals purple. So at that point, I thought, yeah, that's trenching in enough to where it's causing wounds. Let's get rid of that. So today I tipped up a few branches that I saw look like they were in an energy negative state because of being tipped out of the light. That was like this guy, and this guy isn't beautifully wired, but I do have a sling. You can kind of see the leftover wire here that comes from over here. It's just lifting this back up into the light and trying to get this stuff back where it sees what it's supposed to. And we're doing that even though we know that the date has been set. I've been in contact with Peter T. We are going to bring the tree back up to his garden to get more scions, more grafts. It'll be this same stock. It'll be the stock that's noted on our little metal tag that he tagged it with. We'll go with another 3 or 4, and then we will review our lessons on how we're going to do our prune back. We had a lesson plan on how we were going to do our prune back as our Japanese black pine foliage took over. I think that'll probably shift because we've only got one scion going currently, but we'll come away knowing more about that later. And by later, I mean February 23rd, we're going to put this guy in a truck and go up and have lunch and have lunch next door to where Peter T's is. And when we come back from lunch, it will be, this is a loose plan, it'll be grafted. And then we will bring it back home same day and put it back in place with our new directions, with our new direction going and our new instructions in place. And that catches us up on this Ponderosa. Yeah, that catches us up on this Ponderosa when it finally kind of swaps over to the Japanese black pine growth. I will wipe my brow and give a sigh of relief that this tree that I'm working with will be a few years away from having some short needled, better acclimated to my zone foliage, and I will still have this magnificent tree. The other thing that I've noticed though is by cutting the soil back a little, we're just exposing more of this base, and golly, it's fantastic. Also, I did remove a few more damaged and old needles. But while I was doing that, I was taking notice of all the new growth that's still pushing out, and that is two things. One, that's kind of what I'm saying. This tree is supposed to be napping now, and it's not. So that energy that it's using is kind of unnatural for a Ponderosa. But two, I also know that that I don't have a lot of extensive root damage or anything, because it wouldn't be pushing out new growth if it had root damage. There is one thing that does show root damage. I do occasionally see new growth come out and the needles are pretzeled. And I think I've been told that is a sign of root damage, although I don't currently know if overwatering qualifies as root damage or what. Anybody else that has a little bit more info on that, but feel free to share. All right, we're going to move on. This is looking at our coastal oak. This past year, we routed out the hole in the hollow feature a little. Probably should have gone a little bolder, because by the time that repairs enough to get the cut paste off, it will probably already sealed up again. I think the next time I do that, I'll probably go a little bigger with it on the going in. By the time the scar heals, it'll almost be closed up again, I think. That's okay. That's all right. I can learn by doing little moves and little steps, and that doesn't really have us wiping anything out. Also, this looks to me like we've lost a lot of pieces to this branch, probably because of watering cans. This stuff looks pretty good. I typically have seen problems out in here reaching over with watering cans and stuff, or reaching out into here. I've had issues, but it is just now, I think both of my oaks are seeing the weather that we've had in the past week, and they're starting to come alive again. I'm not seeing a lot of buds yet, but I kind of would expect it any minute. And by buds, these little salmon to bright red little colored specks will start appearing all over the tree, and those are what it's going to do next. That's about all I've really got on my coastal. This is the Ponderosa show hen that I got from the same collector that I got the larger Ponderosa from. We've had it a year, probably a year longer than the big one. It's been doing pretty good here, I have to say. I've lost a few branches, but I think that's probably down to potting errors on my part. Changing the angle, part of the tree didn't get enough light, maybe a wiring error or two. I wired this tree extensively This is the tree I also learned that that I wasn't as good at yanking around ponderosas as I was Japanese black pines. Although these baby trees seem to be seem to almost counteract that. I did kill one of the baby trees just by folding it, and I didn't really break it anywhere. It just didn't like the amount of bends I gave it. This is still a small pine, but this is kind of the beginnings of my larger pine, and it just now needs water. Having watered this 2 days ago, it still doesn't need water, and that's kind of like what I'm saying. I wouldn't expect the larger a pine gets, the less frequently you have to water it. I've been having some thoughts about this little tree lately. It seems to me I overpotted it when I overpotted it, and it might be okay now, but it's taken this little tree a long time to do very much. And sometimes you think if you're overpotting something, you're going to give it all the resources it needs to succeed, and that turns out to be not exactly the case. Sometimes when you do that, it's a little tree in a big pot and it just kind of sits there. I've seen that with perennials too. You put a perennial in something and think that if you just put the sprinkler to it, that it'll take off on its own and do something huge, and it won't. It just sits there all year and doesn't do anything. Let's see. The ponderosas. These ponderosas not all got. This one, and this one all got a little reshaping. And I did it without you guys, but I showed you the finished work. It's coming along nicely now. I cut back the needles on this one that looks the best. That's a false look. It had so many heat issues that a lot of the needles were dead halfway out. They were half green and half dead. And I simply just started going through like a hairdresser and cutting back burnt tips. It looked a lot better from having done that. I'm waiting for new foliage to come out, and it's already doing so. But all the rest of them, all of them are actually looking really good. But they are showing. Ponderosas really didn't like being 90 degrees in October, which is a time of year when there normally would have been snowed on for a while. This is our cork bark. It's just now started to take up water again at a fairly fast rate. It's gotten so bushy. I need to go through here and clean a little. It's kind of hard to see just what I have going on. I've also decided to let more branches run out farther, and I decided that going back retro and looking at some of our first years with this tree, and even though like the first video I saw going back, I deleted a lot of them because it's for amateur quality. Worse than this even. But I deleted a lot of my earlier videos, but just as a practice. But the ones that I saw where I saw the tree had some dead branches on it, but I could see what the original design intention was, and where local bonsai master Johnny Cedar or his son, whoever was in charge of styling, they were intending for the branch work to work its way longer earlier and then vibricate off of that. And that's how we were. And what I was doing was letting something come out, cutting it, making two of that, and then cutting them both pixie, and then letting those come out again, and then cutting them. And I see now I'm making a mess. A lot of vibrication, tons of vibrication. Can't see nothing. So I decided last summer to let a couple of them run longer and pinch the ends to try to use that as breaks so that we didn't just get that elongation between all the nodes the way I found my cork bark oak likes to do. And And just looking at the silhouette, I go, yeah, I see that. I see that. Also, I didn't wire them. This was still a clip and grow plan. When I first started with this tree, I was wiring quite a few of these branches, trying to mimic the motion that I saw in them. And I found it to be a tough gig. You don't get to keep them wired very long. You don't get to crack them even a little bit without killing them. If you bend it too much and don't even break it, it'll die. It's just like its vascular system inside there doesn't, for me, I haven't gotten away with, it might have been just a level of game at the time. I should probably reinvestigate that, but at some point I thought that we were chasing our tail a bit, and we would probably be better to do clip and grow. And I haven't really seen anything to sell me off that. I'm still just seeing where sometimes I have ideas, and then you let them, and then you start seeing them play out, and you go, yeah, I'm not really crazy about the way this is playing out. And then that's kind of where I am on here. I'm happy with the tree. I'm happy with the development of the tree. It's doing what I ask it to. The question is, am I asking it to do the right things, or should I be pruning it differently? Either way, we've got enough foliage here to keep the tree happy and healthy, and it's not. I don't see a single bud on this thing anywhere. I just see where we did our last clip before the cold. Yesterday, for instance, was cloudy and cold. So nothing felt particularly awake during that. But more and more and more, we're having warmer days, and I expect this guy to be signing on pretty quick. Our little trays of pines here. We could be folding these guys. We could be. Looks like some of them could be weeded. Most of them are looking okay weed-wise. But we could go through and be folding these things. We could be bud selecting these things. We could start repotting some of these into smaller pots. But we've got. You see all those candles sticking up there? These guys are happy and running. We've got another run of trays that we've already started picking through. And again, I see dozens of really cool trees, any of which we could work with. This is the our first tube tray, which we tied to the rail. It's looking really good. This is the second one we did, and it is in a colander. And I intend to do more of these colander types. Pretty happy with the way that turned out. They look like they're ready for some water, as are my mames. All of these guys look high and dry. They are totally ready for me to refill that watering can and come dancing through there and hitting them. I think they all look good. There's a little bit of yellowing in this one, but we've already started correcting that with by drying out. Yeah, loving this, and just going through here and taking a look at our little guys. All those little burnt tips on the end there. That is our heat damage. Ooh, oh, so almost. That almost got away. These were so much fun to make. We did this one about 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago, this little tree was in those tray of trees behind us, and when we uncovered this little guy, this is what we were looking at. Outstanding little tree. And you could see I let the wire just bury in there. We're gonna leave it. I'm gonna leave it in there. I didn't originally think that way. But it is something that I've come around to. That guy. Look at all of those exposed roots. This is going to be a cool little tree. All right. We're about to wrap this up here. We're close to wrapping this up. I need to make some more selections on this top, and I need to put some more motion in there and there. And this is a quick look at our maple. It too is come back by here with the water. We're just now ready to be watered though, and it's also time to weed. This is 18 or 19, I forgot how many, Kodaheim maple trees. We're just waiting on them to bud out. Speaking of, and they are. You see all these little bright red things? That's it budding out. It could turn right around and get cold again, and then we could lose some of these. But that's where it is right now. It seems to be happy, and it almost thinks it's spring. There's some shoots there. Trident. The Dawn Redwood is budding out also, and it also had quite a few buds from last time. It's not taking up as much water as some of the other leafless things, but why are they taking up water? Why are they taking up water when they don't have any leaves? Because they are below the surface working on those roots. That's what's going on there. So there's another quick look at a tree that everybody saw quite a bit of last year. Last week. This is our work. Yeah. We can maybe go more underneath. I have no idea. I can't see the viewfinder. I might be looking at my own notes for all I know. But anyway, that's got us. That is so much for a quick look. That's a little. Oh yeah, no, we got to talk about these guys. Our bald cypresses, they are well and truly asleep. They aren't taking up water at a very fast rate, but they still do. The last time I watered this guy was yesterday. Note that the top of the soil looks dry. There are no leaves. Where did all that water go? Some of it by evaporation. Most of it by the roots. Also, this one started leaning. It's listing on this side because of root production. This whole side of the pot is heaving. I'm not worried about that. Yeah, so that's just a little observation. I don't think that's really anything. Other than if I stood right here and looked this way, I can see that tree is doing this because this side is raising up. Anyway, that's life on the farm. The crows are giving me the 5-minute mark. Are you gonna let us eat, or are you gonna hog the balcony all day? No, I'm gonna let you guys eat. Y'all come at it. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. We'll probably take our Saturday night and have dinner somewhere instead of doing a live show tonight. We're gonna take a break after a pretty heavy work schedule and a pretty heavy shooting schedule, and still not quite fully recovered from our holiday schedule. So yeah, this is a good time. This is a good time to take 10. And we will come back probably tomorrow and do another beautiful sunny day drop on our balcony. Meanwhile, I'm gonna go refill my water bucket and come through here and spread a little liquid joy to these trees. I appreciate you. Reba Darcy appreciates you, and thank you so much for watching. You said this was going to be fast.